Thinking like a consultant. I try to write like a consultant when I write.
I saw it on your LinkedIn.
I mean, it's very
the first thing that struck me. It's very consistent.
It's very consistent. It's always structured. Very.
I love it, man. I thought this guy, he has it figured out. You know? John, good to have you here, man. Nice that you have us here. We are in Shanghai, actually at the Shangri-La Jing'an Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Your hotel room right now?
Hotel room, yes.
Right.
Staycation.
It's kind of a staycation right now for John. Why don't you give us a very short intro of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm an American, but I've been living abroad for a while now. Spent 4 years in Spain. I'm studying in Madrid, then moved over to Germany, where you're from. Lived in Wiesbaden for a year.
Wiesbaden is nice, yeah.
Wiesbaden, as I like to call it. Then moved over to Shanghai, where I've been first studying and now working in a large Chinese investment bank for the past, well, I've been here for about the past 2.5 years, but working in the bank for the last 1.5.
And let's just dive right into that, right? You're a senior buy-side research analyst at the bank. I know that it's one of the top banks in China, right? But I still have to look up the name. It's called Guotai Junan Securities, right?
Very good, very good.
So that's what you're doing right now. I guess to maybe the majority of the viewers right now, there's a big question mark in their head. So what exactly do you do there?
Sure.
And how might that even differ from what other people in that position do in Western countries?
Sure. Yeah, so basically at Guotai Junan, I'm focusing my research.
That was much more beautiful than how I said it.
I've had a little practice. So I'm focusing research on fintech mainly, fintech and TMT sector on the buy side. So basically we're doing several things. Industry analysis on a very high level, but then kind of micro analysis of specific companies within the fintech sector globally on a more PE VC level, looking for investment opportunities, but also to help educate our executives, our clients, and our employees about what this fintech revolution is all about. How does blockchain, how does artificial intelligence impact our business? How does it impact our clients' business? And how can we potentially invest in it for, on our own? So this is kind of the things that I'm looking at the firm. And I guess how it differs from most traditional equity research positions is, we're looking at non-listed companies. So, we're not looking at Apple or Amazon, where you can find all the financial statements and you have tons of information available. We're honestly kind of on a scavenger hunt to pick out bits and pieces of information. And a lot of it comes down to going and talking to the the CEOs and the board members of the companies, going to visit and seeing how their actual business runs, things of this nature. So it's really about getting in depth into the industry, into the scene, I suppose, which is quite cool because I'm in a very corporate environment. Working in an investment bank, but at the same time, we work with a lot of startups. So you're in the kind of and also like it's a tech industry. So fintech is very technically oriented. So a lot of more technically minded people, not so stodgy suit banker with a tie or whatnot. So I think that's kind of the interesting thing. I kind of straddle both elements.
And you talked about the scavenger hunt, which is probably one of the worst nightmares for all the consultants and investment bankers out there, trying to get information from anywhere on non-listed companies. But what you also mentioned is it's actually a nice opportunity to talk to real life people, right? Get information from executives, etc. Right? So,
definitely.
It's a cool position you're in. And so basically you're positioning yourself as an expert internally within the firm as well as externally, right? Let's leave the internal side and look at the external, your external positioning.
Sure.
You are 25, right?
Yes, 25.
25, man. And basically you are known, or at least you are more and more becoming a think tank in fintech and blockchain across at least China, but kind of also Asia, right? Man, so what we're looking back right now, what were the most important steps to get there? So if you look back at your last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, what were the like key points that enabled you to be in this position right now? Basically, a thought leader in this area.
I would say, the first point that really, kind of drove the entire thing was coming to China.
Okay.
As a foreigner, a Western face in this country, you get treated differently from Western people, and they see you and respond to whatever you're saying on a different level than if someone from China would say it.
Okay.
I think that's one. Maybe it's not necessarily fair, but they trust someone that they know and that they're used to. So coming here and being able to kind of share my experiences in a somewhat unknown environment. China is a very popular topic, I think, now, and people don't know about it. They totally misunderstand what the culture's like, how the business environment runs, what's going on with the tech scene here, which is really blossoming, I think, right now. And being able to kind of share my insights as a foreigner and from a foreigner's perspective on what's happening here has been very crucial. I think the next thing that was really important for my kind of development was focusing, realizing that I needed to focus full time on the fintech stuff. I saw an opportunity, and I saw what I personally believe is coming in the financial sector within fintech, and for me that meant I should focus more on this. My added value, or my add value here is not that I'm going to be a great M&A banker necessarily. And I don't have necessarily experience there compared to some Chinese. I don't want to say competitors, but Chinese, colleagues.
Okay.
But I can add something differently, and that came in the form of being, I guess, understanding of what's happening within the fintech, and really kind of networking myself into a position where I'm deeply involved in the community and into the scene, not only here but in Hong Kong and Singapore, throughout Asia. So that was pretty helpful. And then I think the third piece was more on the kind of the personal branding side of things. And this would be my, I guess, activities on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been a amazing platform for me to kind of share what I'm doing. And I do that through writing. You have to be a content creator, like you guys are making videos. I tend to do my thing through writing, and I do posts, short articles, more investigative articles, research articles, but then also recently a little bit also videos, because I think the video is kind of the next thing on LinkedIn. So those are the three things I think have really allowed me to kind of share my perspective, but get me going in the right direction.
I would like to dig further into the first point. So you said you're kind of perceived differently. Of course, you're perceived differently by local people on the firstly, right? But secondly, also by Westerners, actually, right?
Yes.
So could you elaborate a little bit more? I understand that you are kind of a port or a harbor of trust within China, right? For executives from Western countries maybe coming here saying, okay, this John guy, he's from America. He's one we can trust. He's one who knows the insights. Is that how it works? And what are the dynamics behind that?
Sure. So I actually think there's kind of two ways. It's a two-way street. So the one way would be that, Western to Western, I know how business runs in the Western world. I've lived in many different countries in the US and in Europe. Also lived in Belgium for a little bit. So, I've traveled a lot, and kind of, I guess, more of a global mindset of things. So I can get the differences in business culture. But that means, I'm able to identify and understand how people from Spain, how people from Germany, how people from, parts of Europe, how people from the US work and function, which is good because, there's still, I guess, a little bit of a cultural gap. Not a little. There's a big cultural gap between, Asia and the West. So being able to understand that part is good. There's a lot of, I guess, like you said, there's a little bit of a trusted harbor, I think, is what the term you used. But then on the other side, I think Asians and Chinese, they really do appreciate the more, I guess, I don't want to say developed nations, but they do appreciate the fact that I'm coming from the States and I have the ability to compare my experiences at home and my experiences here, which is my new home. So they do, whether it's necessarily deserved or not, they do tend to, I guess, trust what I say on stuff. Fortunately, I've made sure that my trust is that my trust is deserved.
Right.
I'm not feeding them a bunch of BS or something like that. So I think it's kind of a two-way street, and that's been, I guess, helpful here.
Got it. Okay, it's very interesting. Third, let's skip the second point. Well understood. Third point that you mentioned was about LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn in the first place?
Yeah, so kind of
because you had like the whole cosmos of social media and blogs, whatever. Why LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I guess pretty much what happened is a lot of the Western social medias here are blocked. You can access them with VPN, but traditional access on most computers to Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it's blocked.
Yeah.
So actually, what happened last year when I was first starting my internship at the bank, I couldn't get on to these things at the firm on their Wi-Fi. So I had to figure out something. So I started using LinkedIn. I mean, I had a presence on it, but I didn't use it. I didn't know what I was doing completely. But I was good at filling it out, and at least had picture and the basic, maybe even a little bit more than the basic, like a complete profile. And I started using that, and I started following different people, mainly for news, actually, because you can actually get some really good insights. And I was like, okay, well, you can get straight from the mouth of Mohammed El-Arian, who's like a famed economist. You can hear exactly what he's saying. Like, that's pretty cool. I guess kind of like Twitter, but in a more complete way. It's not just, 140 now, it's 280 characters?
Yes.
A lot more. You can write significant pieces. Yeah. Not only articles, but you can write, short form posts, I think up to 1,300 characters. So, you can start following pretty famous individuals, and you can connect with pretty, infamous thought leaders, I suppose. And I was like, okay, this is quite an interesting platform. Then I met a guy named Eric Sim, who's he was former managing director at UBS down in Hong Kong. He's a Singaporean. Now he's down working for Haitong's International in Singapore. And now he's almost got 2 million followers. So definitely way more than me. But I met him on LinkedIn about September of last year, so just a little over a year ago. At that point, he had, I think, 130,000 followers. And obviously, as a young guy working in the bank, I was like, oh, wow, like, I'm connected with this guy. Like, first off, he's an MD at UBS, which is cool. Second off, he's got 130,000 followers, like, also cool. Yeah. So I was like, oh, wow, like, this is sweet. And I'd been interacting with him a little bit on comments of some of the things he posts, because he was one of these guys who wrote articles, who made posts, things like that. And I saw that he was coming to Shanghai for a conference. And I said, hey, Eric, my name is John. I'm working at Guotai Junan. Like, I see you're coming to Shanghai. Can I grab a coffee or a beer with you? And he said, no. He said no. But he said, you can come to the conference. So he was talking at a digital marketing conference at the NS Hotel, not too far from here, speaking about how he went from 1,000 to 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. And he actually ended up giving me kind of an introduction at the conference. Like, he made me stand up and say, hey, look, this is John from America. He's one of my LinkedIn followers. He's from America, but he's here in Shanghai. We met over LinkedIn. This is the first time we met. So it was like a real world example of what he's been doing on the platform and how it can really benefit, at least in the crowd marketers. But, I guess the next step was, me and Eric started building kind of a relationship together. He invited me to go give some talk in Beijing at Renmin University. I footed the bill. I paid for myself to go up there and talk to these students, but I saw it as an opportunity to get to know him better, and then also to potentially learn something, brand myself a little bit. I did a lot of talks within the bank, so I'd always post pictures, and I think that's kind of how I started building myself as a speaker, I suppose. Yeah. Or branding myself as a speaker. I wasn't maybe the best ever at that point, but practice makes perfect.
Right.
But anyway, so me and Eric started building a more relationship, and the talk that I gave at Renmin University, which is one of the better Chinese universities, was about Chinese securities companies, so Chinese investment bank, and then that became the basis for my first LinkedIn article. So Eric kind of inspired me to start writing on LinkedIn. He's like, yeah, if you want to build a following, write on LinkedIn, create content, write articles, and so far I've done that a lot this year. I put a lot of time and effort. My first article was in February, middle of February, and I think I had just under 1,000 followers, something like that.
Okay.
And since then, I've done 37 articles. I don't know how many posts, videos in the past, I guess, almost a year. Yep. And now I just crossed 30,000 last week. So that's pretty much...
Congratulations.
I mean, I think the point, it's not necessarily about the number, it's about the community that you can build, and I think that's the important aspect.
Yeah. About the community and the interaction, right? Because 30,000 followers without any comments or messages as a response to your articles would be kind of worthless, right?
Yes, 100%.
Then let's dig into that a little bit further. You said you had 1,000 followers when you started, right?
Yeah. Followers, connections, and
those were basically connections, right? Or were those already people following you out of the blue?
Mainly connections, yeah. Mainly people that I knew, people that I worked with, people that I went to school with, something like this. Teachers,
right?
Some business people.
Got it. And now everyone who's attempting to build a following wherever it is knows that it's this first jump from, your basis to gaining traction, gaining first traction, and getting to those maybe first 1,500 followers just based on your articles, not based on sending random friend requests to people. Which is the hardest, right?
Yep.
How did that go? Was that based on your speaking activities? Was that based on awesome articles? Or
I think so. To be honest, I mean, there's some people who write, really viral content.
Yeah.
I know I'm not a viral content creator, I would say. I mean, I get pretty decent traction on a lot of my posts. Several 100,000 views often, but each post, which is I think quite significant. But I haven't had one that went crazy viral and had 30,000 likes or 100,000 likes or something like that. I haven't done that. Yeah. So for me, it was a lot about consistency. I mean, it really is about consistency, but then also, the fact that I was actually doing stuff offline. You're only as good as what you do offline. People can live in a, I guess, fantasy world and write on LinkedIn, but if you're not actually doing something, I think it's really pointless.
Yeah.
I think recently there's I'm not going to call out names or anything because I'm not specifically thinking of any individual, but there's people using the platform to write content, create content, but just for the sake of they want to maybe they're good people, but I think it's really and maybe they want to help, but they're just writing stuff and it's not actually that valuable.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I think during my maturation process, which has been quite a short one on LinkedIn, it went from looking at how many followers, how many likes you got, very intently to really it's more about does this help someone, and I don't just have to post something just for the sake of posting it. Does it add value to anyone? And if it doesn't add value, then I don't post. So actually, recently I've been very, very busy with a lot of the offline things, so I've been posting less. But I think my content has gotten better because I don't feel the need to post anything if I don't want to. I don't force it anymore. And I think that's the key. Being authentic. Having your message, sharing it, your topics that you care about, and then developing the community. I think, but then you have to nurture it at the same time. So, I probably get on calls with people from LinkedIn too often. To be honest, I spend a lot of time talking to people who want to talk to me. Yeah. Which is good, it's a good way to build those relationships and whatnot, but it takes time and you got to be willing to develop and put in the effort because it is a lot of effort.
Let's get into the basics of both those points. You said basically let's divide it into online and offline, right? Online, a couple of questions for total beginners. You mentioned consistency. Many social media networks, at least in Western European countries, have kind of algorithms that favor content producers that maybe put out the video every Sunday or every an Instagram picture every second day. What's the required frequency in your point of view for LinkedIn? It's probably much less, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I try to post three times a week minimum. But
3 times per
3 times
week.
a week.
Wow.
But to be honest, I mean, these posts can literally just be an infographic of something I find interesting. It can be, I probably do 2 to 3 speeches a week. Recently, it's been like that. So there's always one picture of you speaking that you can post. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own original thoughts, I think, but it can also just be sharing takeaways from a conference you went to, or I had one that went pretty well. I think it's got like 600 likes since yesterday about Bitcoin, talking about 4 trends that are happening with Bitcoin and whatnot. So find your topic, share about it, but I try not to be so, I guess, stuck into I have to post this day, I have to post this day. It's better obviously to post Tuesday to Thursday. Monday and Friday are probably not as good. Weekends are more or worse. But I really do try to I post when I feel like it. And I don't necessarily think when you get started, it is about consistency. If you can post every day, go for it. But make sure that your content actually deserves to be posted every day. Right. I think for me, the following I have is really supportive. I mean, they like anything I post, they'll like, but it's because the content isn't, I guess, fake.
Yeah.
So come up with something that really matters and really adds value, and if it doesn't, then don't post it.
Right. How many of those posts are posts that take you longer than whatever, like 2 hours to create? Like
so recently, to be honest, so the long articles, I actually haven't even done one since October.
Okay.
I've been really, really, really busy, and those take a lot of time, and they also get less.
It's December now.
Yeah. They also get less traction too. So I mean, I from February to October, beginning of October, I mean, I did 37 articles. So I built my, I guess, traction as that I know what I'm talking about. I think it's important to really have these. And I tell my interns, like, you have to write these long form articles because this is how you can brand yourself. These ones stay there forever.
Yes.
I mean, they'll always be on your front page.
Right.
The short posts, and they have like a 24 to 36 hour lifespan. Yes, you can go back and see the posts, but they're not going to continually stay there.
Right.
So you got to balance it, and you got to have the long posts, but then you also got to do the short ones. The short ones get much more traction. They're only 1,300 characters. I do those usually like on the way to work on the subway.
Cool.
I mean, it's like something very. I try to post in the morning because those I prefer posting in the morning because then it's people going to work here in Asia. So the first thing they do is check LinkedIn usually. And then it's also people going to bed in the US. And then, so the people in Europe will actually get it a little bit later because they're usually asleep. But by then you've already built up traction in Asia. So then by the time it's lunch here, Europe's waking up, and then the push continues. So I found that for the short posts, it's like the best to do in the morning. For long form articles, I usually try to do those between, at least on in Shanghai time, right after work. 6 to 9, I think is the good timing, because then you're also getting evening people here leaving work and then going to bed. You're getting lunchtime in Europe, and you're getting waking up in the US. So that's like the I guess the trickle down.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the mechanics of the offline perspective. Very basic. I'm a total beginner. Maybe I have my area of expertise, something I know a little bit more about than other people. I might need some further education on it, but I know what I want to develop into. How do I create those opportunities for talks, for gigs, for presenting in front of people?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so for me, starting out, I was fortunate that I was giving a lot of presentations at the bank internally, and obviously you don't necessarily share like. If you can't share what you're posting or what you're presenting, then don't share it. Be careful for the compliance issues. But if you're doing something that's not, it doesn't matter if it can be shared. Then take a picture, have someone take a picture of you while you're speaking, and start building up this kind of, I guess, image of yourself as a speaker. So that was one thing that I think was very helpful for me from the get-go of my internship. Then I got more. Again, like I said, I went with Eric to Beijing, then he invited me to Hong Kong. I did one down there, did several talks down there, did some talks here in Shanghai. So I've done, honestly, like almost all the top universities in Asia so far. Almost. So, take pictures of that and brand yourself, build yourself up. And then eventually people start asking you for conferences and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's partly your, literally showing people that you can speak.
Yeah.
And then secondly, you have to get people to be interested in what you have to say. So you do have to, kind of pull them through your writing or whatever, expertise you have. No one's going to just, and particularly if you're young, no one's just going to believe that you know what you're talking about unless you actually put it out there for people to see.
Right.
So you have to show that you know what you're talking about, at least to some extent. And then I think, the next element for me
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I appreciate that. I mean, I think the next element that was crucial for me was the fact that I also host events. So I run a fintech community here in Shanghai, which is part of a wider global community. So me and my partner Rold, we're heading up the Shanghai community of what's called the Fintech Connector. It's a fintech community, and we host events here locally on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So that's another great way to brand yourself too,
Right.
to have yourself as a speaker and whatnot. So it start small. I mean, honestly, like you don't have to be immediately speaking in front of 1,000 people crowds.
Yeah.
I've given presentations where like 5 people were listening.
Yeah.
And I've also given talks where there's over 1,000.
Right.
So start small and just continue. It's a lot of it's about being consistent.
Yeah.
Again, also,
Yeah.
you have to work at it.
Yeah. I think that contains some really brilliant advice, especially
I
for
don't know about brilliant, but
No, I think it is, especially for people, beginners trying to get into it. Okay, to wrap this thing up, let's take it even one step back and imagine a random guy who heard all of this and he is really thinking about building a personal brand, but he doesn't, like, he's good in a lot of fields, like he has some personal interests, but he doesn't really know where he should focus on, what niche he should focus on, and then even becoming an expert, it's so hard. Can he really become an expert in some field? So where should I go? What should I do? Where to play? Do you have some advice for people like that? How to begin in the first place?
I mean, very simply, write about what you like, because if you don't like it, it's not going to last. First off, you to really build yourself up, you have to be consistent, like I've mentioned, many times. I think I keep talking about consistency, but I'm being consistent about saying consistency is important.
Right, that's what I wanted
but
to
it's
say.
important. If you don't like what you're doing, you're not going to do it. Particularly because you're not getting paid for it. People will do things they don't like, but at least they're getting paid for it. Like they do jobs they don't like, but they're getting paid. Writing on LinkedIn or writing, building up your personal brand in the beginning, you don't necessarily see tangible benefits like from day one.
Right.
So you need to be, consistent with what you're talking about, consistent with your message. But then I also think if you take maybe a little bit of a step back, it's about being, thematic as well. So, before I started, one of the things that I really thought about was, what's my viewpoint, what's my perspective that I'm be coming from, and my theme that I try to write under is my experiences in China working in a Chinese investment bank. But if you've seen any of the stuff that I'm doing, I don't write about anything that I do in the bank. I don't write about anything, day-to-day operations, but I write about observations coming from my experiences in China in the bank. Different opportunities that have come to me through that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, being thematic and figuring out, what is your unique take on something is definitely the way to start. For me, that's been, obviously talking a lot about, Chinese economy, just experiences in tech here. I tend to do a lot of stuff with like self-help or kind of motivational things, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's just because it's a personal interest to me.
Yeah.
And then, also, focusing on topics of interest for people. I mean, it's all well and good to write about something that you like, but, people will do that. They'll write about something that they like, and if they don't care that no one reads it because it's not of interest to other people, if you're too niche, then, fortunately for me, I write consistently about 3 things. I think one would be fintech, blockchain, which is a hot topic right now. The second would be China, also China fintech, hot topic. Third would be kind of the personal branding, self-help kind of stuff. Again, everyone likes that stuff. So to be honest,
yes.
So those kind of things I think are helpful. Write about something that you have a unique perspective on. Everyone has something to say about stuff. Just about crafting your message.
Right. How do you make that? Like, first of all, first question, you said 3 different. You're writing about 3 different areas, kind of, right? The one thing you always get told is just one thing. You don't want to confuse your audience. Is that true? Did you start like that, or? I mean,
so. Yeah, I think for most people you're probably right. I mean, I think there's 3 major portions of my life, and I have 3 segments of people who are my followers, I suppose. That are interested in hearing what I have to talk about. I think because I have 3 different types of messages, somewhat, it widens my reach.
Okay.
I have people who are interested in the fintech part. I have people who are interested in just general China. I have people who are interested in Chinese business, Chinese fintech. Also who are just interested in kind of the self-help, personal branding, marketing kind of thing. So that allows me to reach a lot of different segments. And I think as long as you can stay consistent with talking about all of them, then you can continue, maintain, and develop that part of your network, I suppose, part of your follower base. So if you have enough things to say about more than one topic, go ahead. In my mind, again, for me, this is not my job. LinkedIn is a hobby. Personal branding is a hobby. I don't make money off of it necessarily. At least, I'm not getting paid to do these kind of things. Obviously, there's other benefits that come down the line, but that maybe isn't as easy to measure. So I would say, make sure that you love what you want to talk about, and know what you're passionate enough, you have enough expertise on the matter. And if you don't, research it. I mean, some of the articles I wrote, I mean, I had to do research. Obviously, I didn't necessarily know it all from my head. You have to put in some work. So read a lot, try to find new sources of inspiration, find other LinkedIn people who can be kind of LinkedIn idols for you. So I have several different, LinkedIn mentors, I suppose. Eric would be one of them. Another guy would be Jeffrey Towson. He is a professor at Beida, private equity investor, big following on LinkedIn. He writes a lot of stuff too about Chinese economy, Chinese economics, etc. So he's an interesting source of inspiration for me. I got a guy named Henry Arslanian. He's a PwC fintech guy down in Hong Kong, really cool guy. Another guy named Glenn Leibowitz, who's the head of corporate communications at McKinsey. Actually, I've had the chance to meet all these guys, which is really cool. And that came from LinkedIn. So it's a good way to not only develop your own personal brand, but develop your network through that. I recently had a post where I was in McKinsey office with Glenn.
Saw that one.
He saw that one, and he posted about the same thing. So I mean, that was really, really cool. I mean, he's high up there in McKinsey, and the fact that he even showed me any recognition was super cool. So I mean, I think I got a little bit off topic there, but anyway, I guess it can give other people some things to think about, I suppose.
Right. And now we got very much into the LinkedIn perspective of it. Perfect, nice. I think what I would add is that it's also get into the mechanics of the social media channel itself, right? What you mentioned, of course, you play LinkedIn, you play Lan plays the piano, right? Make sure that you understand what channel you're dealing with. Perfect. That was great. Let's switch gears. We talked about your fintech experience. Why don't we talk about fintech all the time? Why don't we just ask one of the questions everyone is asking himself right now, right? Bitcoin is so high right now, the skyscrapers at the Bund, they can't compare to that. Well, if you were in early enough, right, you're a lucky guy right now. But probably the majority of people, the majority of people is not. what do we do? What are opportunities and threats pertaining to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Wow,
there we are
talking
again.
about
Right? Pertaining to Bitcoin coming up now.
Sure. So I mean, I think for the average Joe or the average watcher,
Right.
I think
Yes.
they're just starting to get into it, and I think that is an opportunity to start learning more about not only Bitcoin but actually the underlying technology of blockchain, which I think is very important. But then the threat would also be that you're getting into something that can potentially be dangerous, and that and it's also somewhat difficult to understand, and conceptually it's not the easiest thing to grasp. So that offers a threat that you could potentially lose a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing, and if you take too much risk. The average investor really does not. I'm not trying to be mean, but they don't have any clue what they're doing in traditional investments, let alone crypto.
Yes.
So you're in a whole nother world here, and it doesn't trade like a traditional stock. It's very volatile. It offers a lot of opportunities for people to get caught in bear traps or bull runs and all these different things. And you have to be careful, and you have to do your homework. So I would say start watching it. Don't ever invest anything more than you're willing to lose. For me, it doesn't seem so like when I invest in cryptos, it's not so. I don't feel like I'm spending money or I'm investing money as much. So you keep that in mind, because it's really easy to just click a button. If it's not like you can go to the bank and just take it out. There's a whole process of getting it into something you can spend. So it's almost like you're just trading some cards online or something like this. So make sure that you do your homework and that you're safe. And I think trying to learn from people first, do your homework first. Learn from people who have expertise. Follow different blockchain publications, Bitcoin publications. Read, understand what it actually means. What is Bitcoin? What is the blockchain? What does it mean about being decentralized? And that's where you need to start first. Do your homework. Don't just invest to get in on the massive appreciation that's happened in the last, particularly last week or so, a month or so. So I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities there, a lot of opportunities to make a lot of money, but be cautious, because you'll get screwed if you don't know what you're doing.
Let's get very concrete, very precise, right? We basically have a Bitcoin publication right in front of us, which is you. At this point right now, where's the Bitcoin trading?
I think
right
it's
now?
it reached almost 20,000 yesterday, but then it's come down to, I think it's, when I last checked, it was like 15.5, 15.6.
So would you be comfortable buying?
Yes. Personally, yes. I mean, I think that there's massive room. I mean, I've predicted 25K by I guess the end of next year, but I think that's gonna. I mean, that was like a month ago, and now I think we could get 50K next year. To be completely honest, I mean, from my opinion, 2017 was the year of it becoming a little bit more understood, or not even understood, but just known to people. 2017, like cryptos and blockchain really popped off. 2018 is going to be the year of institutional money moving into cryptos, and I think you'll already see that with CME, CBOE, and NASDAQ that are going to be adding Bitcoin futures. Actually, they start tomorrow. Trading tomorrow on CBOE, I think. So you're going to see a lot more institutional interest, and that's going to be, I think, a good thing for the market if you're going to be having it widely adopted. That also offers some opportunities for the little guys to get stepped on a little bit, but I know I do think that there's still massive potential for Bitcoin, for a lot of the other altcoins in the short term. I mean, again, a lot of these companies are still going to fail, particularly the new alternate coins. ICO projects, they're definitely going to fail, 90% probably. That being said, in the short term, you can still make a decent profit, because they pump and they'll go up 100% in a day, or 50% a day. And if you're in that from an early stage, I mean, there's a huge amount of upside potential. So even a $1,000 investment in a coin that's 10 cents, if it goes to $10, I mean, you're making some serious money.
Yes.
There's and then there's a ton of coins which have done that this year. So I do see. You're also playing with fire if you try to get in, when it's on the way up, and then, get in too high. That's the thing. Most people find out about it too late, get in, and then they're already on the way down when they're,
Right.
So, psychology is it's a weird thing with investing.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Okay, got it. Very interesting. I think very helpful for a lot of beginner investors, at least, who heard about the hype and thought like, "Damn, did I miss out, or is there
still ways to go?"
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Then let's switch gears another time. You mentioned your third topic of interest is self-help, improvement, etc.
Yep.
Those kind of things, right? What we like to do in those kind of interviews is ask a couple of rapid-fire questions, particularly aimed on self-improvement topics, right?
Yes.
So very we don't get very deep in those questions, but
keep my responses brief for once.
Right. All right. So the first question would be, what are habits that you implement throughout the day? Do you have any?
So I wake up early. I probably should sleep more, to be completely honest. Maybe not the healthiest habit, but I don't sleep that much.
How many hours?
I'd say on average 5. Yeah, but
it's not a lot.
Not so much. I mean, maximum 6.
Okay.
But I do wake up early, and that gives me a lot of time during the day to do stuff. So I think waking up early is a good habit to get into. I mean, I wake up 6:15 to 6:30 every day, which actually kind of sucks on the weekends because you can't stay asleep. But wake up early, and then another habit is that I write every single thing down, either in my calendar or on a notebook, so that I remember things.
Yeah.
Being organized is extremely important, and having all my meetings set and setting alarms as well. So I have too many meetings to really remember every single thing that comes. So I usually set like a 15-minute alarm or 30-minute alarm before, if it's like a daily thing, or if it's a big important one, then a reminder a couple of days in advance.
Okay.
So those are some of the habits, I think.
All right. Any routine in the evening?
So basically, after I get off work, I go do all my other stuff. So I go to my second jobs, my side gigs.
Yeah.
So usually, I'm going straight from the office to, I have my own personal kind of desk at WeWork, like a shared co-working space. So I go from work to work, which also is maybe not the most healthy. I do work a lot. And then also I do a lot of events too. So I'll be speaking 2 to 3 times a week, or hosting an event, or, going to something.
Okay.
So a lot of these after work things.
But there's not like you, when brushing your teeth, you use your left or right hand.
No secret thing like that.
You're right. Okay, and probably your day-to-day schedule is highly volatile. So
yes,
that makes it even more difficult to implement those kind of.
Yeah, every day is different. Every day is packed full. That's why you have to be pretty organized. I'm actually working on getting an assistant to help me with that. Yeah. And that's the next thing I was going to say is delegation.
Yeah.
Delegate as much stuff as possible. Focus on your most value-add activities.
Right.
I don't want to be focusing on replying to a shitload of emails. Excuse my language. That don't matter. If I can have either someone else help me with that, or automate the process, something like this. So delegate what's not a good use of your time. And focus on the things that can build your brand, that can build your career, that can build your network, that can make you happier. Focus on those things.
Which kind of brings me to the underlying theme of this channel, which is focus, right? Focus on the stuff that's adding value, actually. How do you set goals? How do you set? Do you set goals 3 years in advance? Do you set yearly goals? Do you have weekly goals?
So I try to be relatively goal oriented. Weekly, maybe not as much, just because my weeks are so hectic that it's I would create too much stress if I'm trying to achieve too many goals each week. Maybe more on a daily basis. Do one thing every day that you maybe want to get better at, or something like that. It gets you a little bit further. That could be from LinkedIn. That could be from meeting someone. That could be learning something more about a topic. That can be going to the gym. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Daily things, I think, but those are not. There's a little bit more subconscious, And then on a more yearly basis, I do set yearly goals that are a little bit more obtainable. I don't really reach, too far beyond a year, just because my life changes. Every month is a little bit, different, and every month has gotten exponentially crazier, to be completely honest. So, trying to see where I'm going to be in 3 years, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I think I have long-term goals, but I mean, that's more high level stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, I would like to be, do some kind of public service, which would be, more like the political side. But that's way down the line. I want to do my own stuff first. So
cool. Okay. Next thing. Do you have kind of favorite, first of all, books and favorite benchmarks, people you look up to on a daily basis?
So books, I would say, and these are going to be from some of my LinkedIn guys too.
Yes.
Book would be Dealing with China by Hank Paulson. So he was former Goldman Sachs CEO and then Treasury Secretary under Bush. Wrote an awesome book about all of his experiences here. That was a really awesome one. I like the 1 Hour China book by Jeffrey Townsend.
What was that?
1 Hour China.
1 Hour
China. 1 hour, literally 1 hour book, stories. It's very small. But stories about case studies about China and how it's changed and whatnot. So Townsend's awesome.
Okay.
And then another one would be End of Cheap China, End of Copycat China by Sean Rain, who's another guy. They're pretty China focused to be honest, and they're all business focused. But I like those. And then in terms of people who I look up to, I mentioned most of them already, but Eric Sim, Jeffrey Townsend, Henry Aslanian, Glenn Leibowitz from McKinsey, Gordon Orr is pretty cool as well.
Yeah,
he's awesome. And of course, like my family, my parents, and my dad, and whatnot.
Right.
So I think those are probably like the big ones. A lot of them are from LinkedIn, to be honest. LinkedIn has changed my life.
Yeah,
for sure.
1 Hour China is one I'm
you need to read it. It's super easy. I mean, it's literally 1 hour. So
yeah. It sounds super interesting. Yeah. And lastly, a very very brief one. What are your favorite? Do you have some kind of apps that help you the most? Productivity, strengthening apps on your phone.
So
besides your calendar.
Yeah, besides my calendar,
Right.
I mean, I guess my life revolves around two main apps on my phone. WeChat. WeChat's just so functional because you can pay for things, you can talk to people, you can do your social media, you can do branding, you can do marketing, whatever. You can order taxis, you can do everything from that one app, and obviously LinkedIn. And then I guess because I'm in a lot of the like more crypto stuff, there's Telegram. I like Slack a lot actually. Slack's helpful.
Right.
Yeah. I think those would be my most used apps. I don't have like any major like self-help kind of apps. I don't really use those. It's all internalized, I guess.
Okay. Perfect. I think this was a very fruitful conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Likewise.
Me personally, I learned a lot. Hope someone out there also learned something from it. And yes, man, would be happy to meet you again somewhere.
I'll be doing a European speaking tour beginning of next year, and I will be in Germany. So
make sure to come to Berlin.
I will. I actually am supposed to. So
John,
perfect. It's a pleasure.
See you, man.
Yeah.